Hello, everyone. I guess a moment or a minute more, and we are ready to start. Thank you for your patience. Okay, I guess we can kick off. Welcome to the first ever pit stop with Altius Labs, and thanks for joining us today. My name is Ivan. I'm leading the growth in community here, and I'll be moderating the session. We have lovely co-founders and CEO and CTO Annabel and Anit, and we also have a big friend of Altius from the Founders Fund, Pantera Capital, and Archetype VC. And excited to kick off. But first, want to give hi and a few words to the speakers, and maybe we'll start from Annabelle, and I need to check the connection and then proceed to Nihal, Bridget.
Thanks, Ivan. Hi, everyone. This is Annabel here, CEO and co-founder of Altius.
Hi, this is Anit, CTO of Altius, and also co-founder along with Annabel.
Lovely, thank you. I guess Nihal and Bridget are also here and can hear us, so we can kick off. So, as you may know, Altius is still early. We just announced last month the fundraising card and basically the first ever release. We call it a soft launch, but we believe still in the execution through transparency, and that's why we are starting these monthly community calls, hopefully, to give you more insights about where we are, what we're gonna do, and this will be also recorded and transcribed in a written format in case you need to drop off. We understand everyone is kind of busy, but today is all about sharing what's coming, milestones, what we are cooking behind the screens, and listening to you, your questions, feedback. We understand there is some kind of miscommunication maybe and curiosity from your side what we actually building, because this is not a typical according to the latest guidelines in the markets. And to give you basically the picture of what Altius actually is, we just announced a few more or less important announcements for us within the last few weeks, and would like to recap on this. So yes, we just to recap, we want to host these frequently and regularly. I think we'll do these even more regularly on Discord. For insider community to show you up and bring you in, and a few things kind of on organizational stuff before we start. So we will have an introduction and a few information to be shared by our lovely co-speakers and co-founders. This is live open session, so obviously questions from your side are always welcome as well. Just raise your hand and we'll go through the list one by one. We wish we could have all and everyone to be responded, but the session is going to be recorded and we'll keep this on a regular basis. So unfortunately, not everyone will be able to ask the questions, although we wish we could do this. On a positive note, I think that we'll be taking part also at the events offline. So hopefully, we'll be able to meet you in person soon and give a bit more and dedicate a bit more time to everyone. So yeah, now let's move to the speaker's introduction and then throttle into the discussion. Um, I think we can also start from Annabelle and Anit. We have Anit, our CTO and co-founder, who is architecting the core execution engine behind Altis. He'll dive into how we are pushing past the limits of sequential blockchain performance and designing infrastructure built on parallelism and speed. So we need maybe a few intro words from your side. What is your background? Where are you coming from? And why have you decided to make Altius great again, as they say?
Yeah, Ivan, thanks for the intro there. You're too kind. But yeah, I mean, just a little bit about kind of why I'm here, why I'm doing this, and where I come from. Kind of my angle into why is that I worked in high frequency trading for over a decade, and during that time, I worked a lot with distributed systems, distributed caching, and a friend, a colleague of mine, basically kind of contacted me, about a year ago, and was like, "Hey, I think a lot of the lessons that we took away from that experience in high frequency trading in high performance distributed computing could be applied to the blockchain." And obviously, there's a lot of issues with scaling blockchain to take Web3 to a Web2 speed and experience, and some of that is execution, some of that is state bloat, some of that is state management, being able to cache and access data fast. And that's kind of the areas that I worked in before. And so, it's kind of bringing old tricks from the distributed computing playbook, if you will, just standard kind of old school computer science stuff to the blockchain. And I think it's the time is right for that to happen and to be able to apply those things and open up a lot more opportunities for faster applications to utilize that speed.
That gives lots of context. Thank you. Annabel, think over to you. So you are the visioner, the CEO and co-founder as well, driven by Altius vision, shaping the strategy and direction. Was curious and not just directly from my side, but everyone I've seen asking these questions around, and maybe this one is particularly been asked you a lot, but um, you've been in this space for so long time. I mean, the Web3 space, obviously. What trends or gaps did you spot that made you decide now was the right time to build Altius, and what's your vision? Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Ivan, and again, thank you everybody for joining the space. I know LTS is early, but very excited to build with everybody in the space. Um, and a little bit about myself. I've been in crypto since uh, 2017, 2018. Was building early DeFi products. I don't know if how many of you guys remember AirSwap. It was one of the first generation DEXs on Ethereum, part of the consensus spoke. And coming from a TradFi background, I really saw the blockchain as infrastructure for future finance. Obviously, it took us a lot longer to get there, and maybe we're not even all the way there yet. But over the last 6-7 years, apart from building the DeFi infrastructure, and then moving on to build Amber, which is a leading market maker in the space, focusing on bringing liquidity to crypto and not just on centralized venues, but also directly on chain. Um, I've seen many iterations of the market cycles, and really, I think last year was a pivotal moment where, with Bitcoin ETFs, Ethereum ETFs, there's ample liquidity that's coming to Web3, but there's still a lot of infrastructure gaps that is preventing for more of that liquidity or activity to be brought on chain, which is why Altius, which is exactly why Altius is born. So I had the opportunity to meet Anit through our mutual friend, who I went to Carnegie Mellon with, and who worked with Anit for a few years at Hudson River Trading, one of the best high frequency trading shops globally. And this is just a match that made sense. We all wanted to figure out how to bring a lot of the existing computer science solutions to blockchain to solve scalability, to solve performance especially for opinionated use cases that require it, namely DeFi and maybe a lot more beyond. So yeah, Altius, we are focusing on bringing high performance as a baseline to the space and provide it as a modular solution to any blockchains or any future app chains that might need it.
Hopefully, so much needed technology, and the power of the network is amazing and like surprising. I'm basically convinced and saying this because I've met Annabel, I think, 3 or 4 years ago, and since that time had a few opportunities to work together, but finally I think the best one always comes at the right time. So it's one I'm also, for context, working closely with Anita and Annabelle on the growth and community side. My role is, I think, way much simple, to connect the dots between the product, community, everyone, to kind of act as the voice of the Altius, ensuring that everyone is being heard. But yeah, so this AMA session is not about the internal crew. We joined today by a few sharpest minds in the Web3 venture. And by saying this, I mean that we have on the stage Bridget and Nihal from Founders Fund and Pantera Capital. And later on, we'll be joined by Danny from Archetype VC as well. So I think ladies first, and I'll let Bridget to introduce herself and share more about the vision, why, and how did you meet Annabelle and Anit, and what was your first impression about Altius?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
My Wi-Fi was being weird. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I think so. I'm Bridget from Founders Fund. I've been focusing on the crypto side here for about 2 years now. At Founders Fund, the thesis like within crypto is basically the same as outside of crypto, where we just look for the best founders with some like we call it like a 0 to 1 edge versus the rest of the market. And I think Joey, who I work with, had known Annabelle for a while as well. Um, so that's how we like initially got in touch. And another thing like I think worth noting is there's not that many like second time founders in this space that are super ethical, that built something super interesting. I think like Kane from Infinex is one, and then Annabelle is kind of the other. That we've invested in both, and we're super bullish on both, and we really liked their vision of being like kind of this integratable execution stack, rather than like another standard generalizable like L1 or L2. And we hadn't seen like much experimentation on the execution part of the stack versus like the data availability part, the shared sequencing part, um, and other layers relative to the execution layer part, which was interesting because that's like a very lucrative and performance reliant part of the stack. So that's kind of like why we were interested and how we originally got in touch.
Thank you. Just a follow-up question, if you don't mind. You mentioned that you
Yeah,
haven't
of course.
seen a lot of experimentation on this front. Do you think this was driven because the space was just focused on other verticals, or the space was
I
just
think
lacking
it's
of
really
professionals?
Yeah, I think it's just like it's honestly like a really technically challenging part of the stack, as well. Like I think we originally got into it via the groundhog paper that David Mazieres put out. Like I think it was like a year and a half ago, um, and spoke with them a lot about it. They decided not to like productionize or commercialize it, but it was basically like a parallelization kind of engine architecture that did not rely on like optimistic based like proofs or anything. So that part was interesting. And then we started talking with Annabelle and Anit, and they're just like the total dream team where they have like a killer business mindset plus like amazing technical talent from all of the founders. And I think that's like very rare in crypto. You kind of see usually like one or the other, where a team is like way too in the weeds technical, and kind of like it's difficult for them to maybe like go to market, or get like a community or adoption in the broader sense. But um I think the Altius team kind of has like the full package here.
Thank you for the kind words. Cross fingers. And on behalf of the team, I want to thank you also for supporting us. Same as
Of
Nihal and
course,
Denny.
yeah.
So maybe we'll let Nihal to speak about the longest standing vision and the journey, how you've met Annabel and Neat, what were your kind of theses and takeaways from the very first meetings.
Yeah, sure. Hopefully you guys can hear me.
Yeah.
Yes, my name is Nihal. I'm a partner at Pantera, covering DeFi infrastructure. Before this, I worked at 0x doing product. Yeah, come from like a technical background, but progressively, stopped coding, and so now I'm in VC side. But yeah, I think like I met Annabelle probably in one of these crypto events, honestly. But I know Annabelle has like a long history with Pantera, kind of given given her kind of role at Amber, and Amber is a portfolio company of ours, so there she's known the Pantera kind of investment team for a very long time. But yeah, as soon as I kind of met Annabelle and Annie, it kind of stood out that there were like a second like deep standard deviation, much further ahead than like the founders that we usually talk to, kind of in the crypto space. And team is always like one of the most important things that we look at specifically for early stage bets. So right off the bat, that's like probably one of the bigger reasons why we were so attracted to Altius. And the second reason, like why the vision kind of drew me so very specifically, was that the long term vision of, not being just a generalized L1, L2, but helping other very application and opinionated blockchains be able to abstract away the execution layer. I just feel is the long term trend of this industry. Like right now, again, I understand the sequencer fees are like probably the bread and butter and how people make money, but that can't be long term sustainable for our industry. Like there needs to be actual, business application use cases in the future that are making money themselves. And so for that, there will always be, a need for, specialty on the blockchain side for these types of execution layers, and no one's really filled that gap. And so that's what we hope Altius to do. And like, Bridget has mentioned, like the technical talent and like just the business drive over at this team is like second to none. And yeah, that made it a pretty obvious choice for us to kind of, get into the Altius kind of, deal. So yeah, that's from our side.
Lovely. A very dumb joke, but maybe there was a need for a need. We're lucky to have him on board and bringing these experience and execution from the many, many years in Web 2 into the Web 3. And we definitely loved the video you guys did a few weeks ago highlighting the lever you see, the layer you see will be powered by the lever you don't. I think that gives lots of the context and um, interesting like analogies to the community, how we can explain like the technical things in a plain and simple form. Danny, over to you. Thank you for joining us as well. I know this schedule and like your calendar is also fully packed. Danny is representing Archetype, the full known for backing foundational infrastructure and protocol teams. So yes, please feel free to maybe share your experience on this front. What drew you to Altis, and what was your like first impression?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so Archetype, we're an early stage crypto VC where we really have built our firm, our resources, our ecosystem with the mission of supporting the most compelling and ambitious early stage founders in this industry. And we think crypto is at this fascinating inflection point right now where not only do we have regulatory legitimacy and structural changes here in the US, as well as institutional participation on a level that we've never seen before, but we also have AI, which is this unbelievable technology that gives a much broader base of builders the capability to create different types of technical visions, right? Like pretty much anybody now can be a creator and launch an incredible new wave of applications and products and things on chain, not to mention just the whole upgrade in terms of like making the UX much better on chain, right? And so what we think the missing piece there is really what Altius brings to the table, which is like, okay, how do you pair like a structural shift in this market, a new form of general purpose technology with a incredibly dynamic and performant execution stack that gives people the ability to build world-leading applications and infrastructure. And so I think what Altius does is it takes advantage of those major changes, and then it empowers people to actually like go to market with something that is unbelievably performant, right? It's sort of just like this remarkable technology. And as far as the team goes, I think Annabel is world class in terms of her background. She sort of sits as the almost embodiment of those structural changes, those intersections that I talked about in terms of like grassroots builders coinciding with like government, regulatory, institutional adoption. And I think Anit and his team sort of come with this unbelievable and unique background of actually having built these massively performant systems at scale. I mean, it's not just research and R&D in a lab and sort of white papers with empty benchmarks, but it's stuff that actually has been stress tested at the highest scale. And so for me, that combination is a team that we've never really seen before, and they're bringing to market something that crypto's never had before. And so for us, we just think the future on chain is going to be unbelievably exciting in the next couple of years. And I think Altius is going to be a massive player in a lot of what we see in the next months and years that I think inspires the world to look on chain.
Thank you, Annabelle. I don't know how you're feeling after hearing all these thoughts and representations.
I'm literally saying that I am really just blushing in front of my phone right now, just hearing all the kind words, and really appreciate all the support so far. But we're still early and lots for us to do, and I'm sure with the right long-term partners by our side, it'll just make that path so much easier. So thank you all.
Would you mind? Obviously, today we don't have all the long-term partners and investors, because like basically investors are not just investors; they are long-term partners on the way on the joint mission. But would you be so kind to share to the community how did you decide like the final list of who's going to be helping Altus on this path? Maybe give us some story behind the screens. How did it happen, and any particular thoughts on this?
Yeah, of course. Even sort of early last year when we were still brainstorming and doing a lot of the research and looking at the benchmarking of what LTS could be, because it actually took us a while to get to this current architecture setup. Maybe a lot of people didn't know, but building it into a modular fashion, being able to decouple the execution layer from the consensus layer and optimize solely on the execution layer is far more complex than maybe just building our own chain and being a sort of a fast chain, standalone L1 and L2. But I really did push Anit and the rest of our team to really go that direction, because even from early days, speaking to other founders in the space, especially other teams building blockchains, or looking for partners to help them build the app chain themselves. There are a lot of gaps that needs to be solved. So one of the conversation we had earlier on is actually with Bearchain. They're also our portfolio. Sorry, they used to be my portfolio company that I invested in when I was at Amber, and now the founders have also invested in Altius as an angel. And that early conversation gave us a lot of inspiration. I think for Bear Chain, they've also been doing research on scalability, because what they want to be is what they want to do is actually focusing more on growing the ecosystem, making sure all the application or the L2s built on top would have the performance they need. That execution is not going to be the bottleneck. So that gave us the inspiration to build it into a modular stack to be able to bring high performance to any chain that needed, and help any blockchain future proof for performance, so they can focus on building the ecosystem, building adoption, and focus on building what matters. And we just focus on what what we are better at, where we have the technical expertise, and hopefully get to um, a future adoption, Web3 adoption at the level of Web2 parity in terms of UI UX for all the end users.
Got it. Makes sense. Thank you. I'm cautious on time, but I still would like to ask maybe one more question. Denny, Nihal, Bridget, whoever has any thoughts, like feel free to start. Um, just very short but plain question. Why should Altius be on the radar of all these projects, roll-ups, chains we've been speaking about of? Why do you think maybe they should be excited of and speak to try to get into the pipeline? um, any particular thoughts and observations on your side?
Sure, I can take a stab at it. I mean, honestly, on the application chain side, it should definitely be on your radar because the most valuable thing I think like that we've kind of learned throughout these cycles is that it's about like the community, the ecosystem, and very specifically like when you look at Hyperliquid, like the product that you build. You know, like these are the types of things that, you know, will make a chain successful. It's not going to be, you know, how optimized your EVM is. That should be able to like pull, you know, specialty that's outside your realm just in general. And I think people who are like good at building perp dexes, people who are good at building very specific application, maybe asset tokenization or RWA stuff, they should focus on their product themselves. And like the really nitty gritty distributive systems, they got a need, you know, to kind of, you know, focus on those problems for them. So I think like if you're building a real business, no need to also become an expert in all the blockchain protocol consensus stuff. That's where I see Altius fills the gap. And I think the more that these teams can focus on their own product, the better it is for them and their business as well.
Thank you. It's one of our motto. We build it and we help you on the pathway, and you focus on what matters for you. Denny, I see you're unmuted, so over to you.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like why teams should pay attention to be excited, I mean, I think it really is down to just like this is this incredible inflection point for this space, and like Altius just gives people the ability to focus on designing the applications of the future. I mean, things that don't just compete in the silo of crypto, but compete in a global context, enable new use cases, attract new user bases, et cetera. And you know, we've long talked about the need to upgrade the infra stack within this space. We've started to do so over the last couple of years in terms of some of the more general purpose L1s and L2s that have come in, but even those are somewhat restrictive in terms of like requiring people to deploy exclusively on them, and you know, some of the trade-offs that they make, and even just like not necessarily reaching the performance metrics that are actually needed to unlock things in social and finance and gaming, et cetera. And so I think what Altius does is it really gives people the ability to build the future of everything really digital. And so anybody that has incredible ideas but have been bottlenecked by some of the infrastructural constraints or otherwise the capital constraints that go into, you know, needing to hire an incredible full stack team, build out the infrastructure, source liquidity, et cetera. I think Altius just subtracts all of that, and it frees up the creatives to focus on just the things that matter. And that's what I think is most important.
Yeah, I think pretty much everything has been covered by Danny and Nihal, but I'll just add like we love to invest in things that are like company sized problems, like basically a headache for companies themselves to build out infrastructure. Like Altius is obviously an example on the execution layer. Dynamic for wallets, like basically things that are just like super annoying for companies to do in house and like using their engineering resources and creative resources to do it. It's just like it adds annoyance and it adds stress, and like if you can abstract that away and get all these performance benefits, like it's kind of like why not? And then once enough people in the market start using it, it sort of becomes like you're going to fall behind if you don't use it and if you're not like at parity with everyone else using it. So it's kind of the same way that the internet modular stack evolved as well, where things are status quo now for performance, for security, um, and things like that.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your thoughts. Um, it was very nice and like a pleasure from my side, and I'm sure the rest of the team is happy to have you on board. Thank you for tuning in. I understand maybe your schedule is tight, so feel free to stay or if you're busy around, drop off. And meanwhile, I think there are lots of pressure based on all these conversations on a need now. So I would like to challenge a need to give a bit more context and latest um, updates on maybe what's been, let's say, the hardest technical challenge so far. And needs curious to hear your thoughts, what you can share with everyone, and maybe how did the team overcome it. What's on your weekly basis at the moment?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It's what I spend my nights dreaming of or not sleeping of. Um, I think we have again, from our background or expertise, where that lies, we have the ideas and the solutions and have started implementing the parallelism part of our product, the distributed caching part of our product. Honestly, the hardest part has been integrating that into crypto, and to the point that some of our fantastic supporters, Bridget, Nihal, and Danny have alluded to, is that that's the expertise that you don't want to have to redo. So we're doing it kind of once, and hopefully everyone can kind of leverage that in the future. I am not a creative type, so I can only solve these engineering problems, and I hope others can take this and run with it, and then create the thing that will move the needle toward mass adoption for everybody. But it's really been that. It's I think there's a certain amount of um, ways that blockchains have been created up until this point, across the board, L1 and L2, and being able to hook our stuff into that so that it is frictionless has been the hardest part. But again, as I mentioned, uh, we're getting close, and in the process, we've made some improvements. From the get go, we're actually building underneath or inside of Reth, because obviously it's a highly performant execution engine layer, whatever you want to call it, and from there, we're gonna be building our modules as a kind of like a cradle, and from there we'll be able to take the modules out and apply them to other chains, whatever their technology is, other VMs. And so yeah, that's kind of been the hardest part, is just like making sure we integrate tightly and with existing blockchain technology like Ref, and then being able to expose the performance gains from our own technology, which is all the as I mentioned, caching and scheduling and performance and transaction.
Thank you. If you don't mind, like I've seen and I've observed a few similarities on like both Twitter, Telegram, and Discord, and people tend to be curious about the specifications of Altius tech. How fast is it? Whether it can make actually like make already fast chains faster. Can you elaborate a little bit on this? How is it possible technically, and how far we can go? Do you hear me? Oh, I think Anit is reconnecting now, so I sent a request again. Maybe while Anit is reconnecting, Annabelle, the question to you, and maybe we can make a step back, because same, based on my observation, there are lots of confusion. What is Altius actually is? Some may compare Altius to Layer 1, some to Layer 2. But in a simple terms, I think would be nice to hear from the co-founder and the CEO. What is Altius? How would you explain it, like to a 5-year-old kid?
Well, 5-year-old might be a stretch, but I'll, I'll try my best. So, I assume that modularity is not a new concept, but it basically means just separating out the different stacks of the blockchain. So, if you think about it at a fundamental level, you have the settlement layer, and then consensus, and now we've separated or decoupled execution further from consensus. So we're not reinventing the wheels at a consensus level, but just focusing on optimizing for execution. Obviously, there's the data availability layer, the DA layer. I think people have heard about Celestia. Similar idea, but instead of the DA layer, we focus solely on the execution layer, and just focusing on being able to execute smart contracts as fast and as much as possible per block, and be able to update the state of the blockchains that use our stack in a faster and cheaper way. Um, an analogy we like to use is, the way that we think about empowerment is similar to perhaps for startups to be able to use AWS, the cloud, instead of building their own physical data center, given that that is a lot more resource and time required. We want to be able to help L1s, L2s, or future app chains to be able to get that performance without having to build everything from scratch. And it's a modular solution, meaning they don't need to fork their existing chain, they don't need to redo a lot of the work that's already in place, and it just should be a very seamless upgrade at the execution client level.
Thank you. Yeah, that wasn't, I would say, close to 5-year-old kid, but maybe if I could try, let's say, and try kind of explain to a 5-year-old kid that whenever you see a car, there is an engine under the hood. So Altius is an engine which powers and empowers this car and makes it faster, no matter what color it is. So on this note, back to Anit. Glad to have you as a speaker again. Check the connection. You're not gonna go away from the complex questions, and the next one we would like to hear from your studies on the specifications of Altius stack. We've seen a lot of interest. How fast could it actually be, and whether there is any opportunity to speed up already um, chains which are quite performant?
Yeah, and sorry about that. Speaking of infrastructure projects, clearly my home needs better internet. Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't want to be another one of these folks that just just make up a number and say that, oh yeah, we've hit this number. I want to be able to back that up with real data. In fact, this was one of the issues when we were actually, talking to our lovely partners who have believed in this project. Is early on, I was like, I can't give you a number. Like, I don't want to lie and make up something. But to that end, just what we've done so far in terms of optimizing kind of like database performance, we're looking at without even our technology. This is just being able to, as I mentioned, some of the heavy lifting has been um, making it feasible for us to integrate our technology into the chain. And just that work alone has looked, we're looking at about a 100% performance increase. So, 2x right there. And then you start adding our stuff in, and then you have, more layers of improvement on top of that. Just based on again, this was testing, so until I have our goal is to benchmark against Ethereum mainnet data, and then eventually go to some of the bigger L2s and then use their data as well to benchmark against. So a real metric versus canned data, or some sort of amount of data that is like perfectly suited to being able to perform highly. But in terms of parallel performance, we're looking at another on top of the database stuff. We're looking at another 2 to 3 at least. And then of course another thing I'd like to talk about a little bit is that it's not just distributed caching that's part, it's a core part of the product, but it's not just distributed caching that we're bringing to the table. It's also the fact that if you're running against your state limits, right? If you have a chain, Ethereum obviously we know suffers from state bloat. You have other major L2s that are suffering from getting close to limits that they can put into one host. By using if you go with Altius, then you'd be able to just add more nodes to the system to speed up to overcome the bloat problem. Um, so, and to that end, if you're hitting a limit, you're getting close to a limit, you can just like add more nodes, and then parallelize your storage part. So, in my goal, like I feel like I failed if we don't get to gigagas once we put all these things together. So that is my goal. We're not there yet, but we're working hard toward it.
I think we've heard just from your side between the lines what is the stage of the development now and what are the next like milestones. Curious, if we look at the broader picture, what is the end goal of the Altius tech, like based on your envision? I don't want to go into like very fancy questions like how do you envision Altius in 1, 5 years, but maybe there is still some vision based on your ideation, like how you would like Altius to look like.
Uh, yeah, and I think Annabelle kind of alluded to a little bit of this before. It's we're kind of looking at trying to become this piece of infrastructure that's just the norm, right? And I think some of our Bridget mentioned this as well. Like these are just like status quo things that Web 2 has adopted, right? Everyone's on AWS or Google Cloud or whatever, and they scale in a certain way. I hope that our product is that for people. And of course, we'll always have a product that you can embed and take it yourself and to use. But if you want to give that up and just let us deal with it, then hopefully we can just do that for you via our kind of like shared execution as a service product. And so again, like I hope it gets to the point where just like you log into AWS, you can just like go get like you can literally spin up like a high performance computing cluster if you have enough money, right? But you can just spin one up like overnight and then just like start running simulations or whatever it is. I hope that it could be similar, where you could come to our Web2 website or a smart contract or whatever it is, and you can be like, I would like this many services, this much service from you, and you would just get that, kind of all automated behind the scenes, and you just have your blockchain start scaling faster immediately. So that's my goal. If I can if Altius can bring that to people, I think it moves the needle again toward the creatives to be able to actually again move blockchain technology to mass adoption.
And actually, just quickly adding to that, to get to the share execution layer, obviously there is the benefit of the performance gain, and maybe even additional dynamic load balancing. If one chain is highly congested, and we have competing resources for other chains that it could be shared, and maybe even an interesting market for that. And ultimately, I think driving towards connectivity. I think that's one thing we've talked about a lot in terms of fragmentation in this space, because there are just too many chains. So how can we solve interoperability in a more native or more protocol level way that doesn't rely on too many third party or service providers? So we'll have a real shot at having that more native interoperability through the shared execution layer as we continue to build out that network. So hopefully benefits all across the board and really get to that Web 2 parity, because it's not just performance, it's also user experience in general.
Thank you. Thank you for the context. Maybe one more last question before we proceed to the stage when we'll let them, listeners, community members, to raise their hand and step in on the stage. Um, would you be able to share a bit what's on your like weekly routine basis right now, Annabelle? Maybe you speak a bit more the partnerships, type of partnerships you're thinking of, or team members you are looking for to hire. Maybe share how would you describe the culture you're building at Altius. Anything you're comfortable sharing with the rest of the listeners.
Of course. So we're still a very lean team. You're speaking to probably a majority of us already on the AMA, but I feel super fortunate to have the team so far, and the culture is actually pretty organic. I would say most of us have worked with each other or known each other for a while. So the whole process has been super organic. Most of us are have built something, different business in the past, or have um, really built the technical expertise in Web 2, but all ended up at Altius, driven by very similar visions, and actually the level of intellectual curiosity, trying to build something new, challenge ourselves again, and leveraging what we've learned in the past separately to combine these experiences together to build Altius and to actually um, providing meaningful solutions to the space and play a small part in the future of adoption. I think that's why we're all here. And we would love to preserve this culture of just a stellar team with curiosity that's going to keep driving us forward. And Yeah, I'm currently looking to selectively expand the team, but um, I think the core culture that we're looking for is exactly it. People who are curious, who want to build things that's going to leave a legacy or make changes, and not afraid of hard work and having a more longer term vision. We're definitely here to build for the long term, and I think our past record has proven that, and we are committed to keep building in Web3 and in the space. Um, and in terms of the current partnerships, I think I need to also mention that we've made a lot of progress so far on the technical side. We're get to a point where, um, at least for on the EVM side, we're close to having a polished product where we can start integration with our design partners. And now we're more aggressive in having all sorts of conversations with different kinds of partners, either the chains themselves, so the EVM based L1s, L2s, or a few app chains, um, and also other potential distribution partners. I'm with the mindset that it's always better to collaborate with other smart people in the space. A lot of the times we're building things that seem competitive, but it's actually complementary. So speaking to a lot of the other service providers for different blockchains, this could be other modular solutions. These could be tooling or node operators, um, or validators for a lot of the existing chains. Um, and just really trying to figure out what the pain points are, what the bottlenecks are, and how we can solve these problems for them. It's interesting for some of the node operators, their concerns actually the state blow. How can we help manage that, and can we actually reduce the hardware cost for them? Versus maybe for certain app chains, they care about customization, and whether or not we can actually integrate our stack to their chain quickly, so that they can support more use cases they're looking for, and obviously save time and cost for their end users to use that directly. So it's definitely been interesting. We're still collecting feedbacks, and we'd love to hear more from the community as well. What are your pain points? What do you want to see built? And we'll try our best to address that or work with the other talented teams in the space to make that happen.
Thank you. On this note, I'm gonna probably promote the button integrate with Altis on our website. Obviously, you can also DM our page on Twitter or directly Annabel if you prefer that way. But we keep trying to keep like the things aligned. So reach out to us whenever you want if you're looking for a partner to be integrated with. If you can to be excited about this journey and you would like to join the team internally, feel free to check out the list of the open positions on the website as well. We are definitely looking for highly talented Swiss knife people in the team. And while we'll be proceeding to the community questions, live questions, I do encourage everyone who wants to be on stage to raise their hand. Um, Please be aware that we would like to keep your questions concise and relevant to the discussion, kind of be respectful to the rest of the speakers, members, and try to keep the off topic discussions non relevant, no price speculations. And obviously, I'll now go through the list of those who requested to be visible on the stage. And meanwhile, before we give a go, I see that one of the question in a written format under these tweets. So just in case, if you're shy to speak out, feel free to message and text us under these AMA. One of these is which tech contributions do you guys need? How community can help you and like can expand the network? And obviously on that side as well, whether you plan to run validators, if yes, how we can onboard. Excited. Maybe on the validators and needs, you can mention whether there is a plan, and maybe on the tech side as well, if there is any needs from the community to be interacted at this stage.
Yeah. So, oh boy, looks like I might be.
Yeah, we lost him. I think he's coming back. We have send me BTC my sleep on stage. You guys requested to and raise your hand. Curious if anyone wants to be the one who's going to ask the first question. Asleep? Yes, we hear you. Please proceed. And next going to be the send me.
Okay, GMGM everyone. My name is Sleep. I guess it is weird, but I chose the name for a purpose so that whenever you are grinding, you can remember to take a rest. Okay, back to my question. My first question is, what is Altius' long-term goal, and when is the program going to last? Because we have seen programs they last for a year or two. So, what is your long-term goal? Are we looking at 5 years or 10 years, or you are just restraining it to maybe a year or two? Secondly, my second question is concerning the application and recruitment process. I read through the article and I saw that, okay, you are allowed to reapply again. Now, my question is, if you apply the first time and you weren't given, how long will it take for you to apply again? Thirdly, at the end of the recruitment process, are you going to just stick to those people that you recruited? And lastly, what is the future collaboration or partnership you intend to go into?
I think
Thank you.
I think you're speaking of the latest announcements. We are committed to launch the ambassador program. So, in order to address these, we'll be hosting the separate AMA session on the Discord within the upcoming weeks. So we do invite everyone to join it because we would like to keep the conversation here to be more focused on the tech and product side. And speaking of the ambassador program separately, we'll be hosting the like all-in-one program and FAQ and guidelines in the video format on Discord. Hope that makes sense and you'll be able to join us. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sanmi, I remember you've raised your hand, so maybe if your not question is not about that type of program, please feel free to proceed.
Oh yeah, sure. Thank you. My question was actually in line, or is actually in line with the ambassador program. But since you mentioned that there's going to be another AMA for that on the Discord, I think I'll just keep my fingers crossed and wait for an announcement. But then also, before that time, right, before I actually saw the announcement for the ambassador program, I tried reaching out to Annabel via DMs and via mail, but I guess she didn't see it. So I'm hoping she could just have a look at it. Thank you very much.
Of course, did you send me a DM on Twitter or
Yes,
um
I did. And I sent you a mail as well, but maybe that
oh,
bounced, but I sent you Twitter DM.
okay, I usually am responsive on Twitter, so let me have a look if I missed you. Sorry.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Maybe to like one more point to address if anyone has any similar questions. I think it's generally a great question still. So because we do want to empower the community to spread out the world. Although it may seem to you that Altus is more like a B2B stack, which has like more application chains, they have a need in this technology. We understand that the end users are the ones who are benefiting from it. So we want you to know about it in advance. We want you to be sure to test it whenever the first integration is done. That's why we are working on the mechanics to obviously reward the only birds, we call them that way, and referrals, and the leaderboards of the systems defining explored, not just for like random support, but really meaningful actions. So thank you. Stay tuned. I let a few more people to join on the stage. Maybe we give a few more minutes, and if not, maybe then um, also someone else may raise their hands. And I also see that Bridget is still on the call, so maybe one of the question could be asked from your side. Emily, please feel free to ask, and then Aman.
Hello, good evening from here. My name is Emily. So my question is just simple. So I want to know if Altius is mainly for developers or non-developers are included in this project.
Thank you, Emily, for your question. So we are, I would say, definitely more developed focused at the moment with the technical stack. But part of the ambassador program and us doing the monthly AMAs is to hopefully be able to engage with anyone who's curious about what we're building and to be able to collect feedback directly from you guys as end users. So yeah, please follow along, and hopefully the LT stack, or at least the impact will be indirectly to your hands through our integration with notable partners, notable chains in the space.
Okay, I'm grateful for this reply. So we've currently seen a lot of projects in this space, so many projects. So I want to ask, what is the greatest challenge Altius is trying to combat in blockchain? Like what is gonna be the greatest problem Altius is going to tackle in this blockchain era?
So really, the ultimate goal is to be able to bring Web 2 level, or Web 2 parity to Web3. So if you think about user experience, how we're using even, Twitter right now, can we, or X right now, can we do that on chain and into the on chain applications? And it doesn't make sense for all of the applications or the general blockchains themselves to focus solely on scaling all the time. So what Altius is doing is providing them with a modular solution to future-proof their chain. So we live in a world where we could have Web 2 level parity on Web 3 for any use case you want to see and want to use.
Thank you, Annabel. Thank you, I appreciate.
And thank you, Emily, for joining us. Aman, please.
Yeah, good evening, guys. Myself, Aman from India. My question is, how, like in future, when Altius will integrate with other chains, so what will be the implementation process and how much work will be required for the teams?
So maybe to summarize your question is like how much time, according to our expectation, needs to be done in order to see like the first partnership being announced live and see the technology on traction, right? Post
Yeah,
integration to see the results.
and how much, like with when we will integrate with any chain, so how much work will be required for the developer teams of that chain to integrate with Altius? Like it will be hard or easy?
Great question. Yeah, so basically curious like how long does it takes to integrate Altius on their site and what does the integration process look like? Um, cool. Annabelle?
Yeah, I guess since Anit, I think, just joined, so I'll take this question. The way I envision it, the integration should be as seamless as possible, but that really depends on the architecture of the chain as well. Some of these I call it newer generation of blockchains. It's already based on very modular solutions, so it's quite easy to decouple the execution layer and to essentially upgrade it with our stack. Some of maybe the older or previous generation architecture might be a bit harder. But yeah, the first time integration could take maybe days to weeks. Shouldn't be longer than that. And the future upkeep would just be automatic.
And I think that's Anit, if you hear us, you can also add a few more points on this question. You are now part of the speakers.
Yeah, that's again, apologies. I didn't realize my internet was so bad. But yeah, I mean, to that end, I mean, kind of just like echoing what Annabelle just said. I mean, it's just it depends on. There might be a little bit more work that needs to be done if it's not something that we've already integrated with. But if it's a tech stack that we've already integrated with, then it's pretty much for free, right? So, yeah, I mean that's just kind of like adding to what Annabelle said.
Thank you. Maybe 2, 3 more questions. I see Temple raised his or her hand, so please feel free to ask.
All right, JM, Annabelle, and every speaker in the space and the listeners. Quickly, I want to have 2 questions. Although I've been in the AMA sections, the pitfall when it started, and I've been listening to all the speech on how the project started and how Annabelle met most of the team members and how they started building. I heard that they started building from Web 2. I discovered that Atos aims to achieve a Web 2 level performance for on-chain use cases while remaining VM agnostic and modular. So, given the diverse execution government environment across layer ones and layer twos and app chains, so my question is, how does Altos ensure seamless compatibility without compromising decentralization or security? That is number one question. And so, secondly, how do you see this impacting the broader blockchain infra landscape in the next 3 to 5 years? I don't know if you get my question.
I think I can definitely address the first part of your question in terms of like integration and security. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, security and um without compromising the specialization or security. Yeah, the security.
So, right. So, I'll talk a little bit about security part. It brings me to like a funny thing where like they asked the creator of C++ how good he thought he was in C++, and I think he gave himself like a 6 out of 10 or something. So I often find that the anyone that says they're like kind of an expert in a field often it may not be. um, and so to that end, my again, I literally just shot myself in the foot, but my expertise is distributed systems and distributed caching. Luckily, in my previous job, I worked in a place where everything was, behind a firewall, and I was able to kind of do whatever I want. We were able to do whatever we wanted without, the overhead of security and overhead being a necessary thing. But we were just able to kind of do whatever we wanted. But anyways, I guess my point is that like we that is not our expertise at all. And so what we want to do is we want to sit behind a established product. For example, like I mentioned earlier, in a different part of the AMA, we were focusing on building inside of ref. And so we're focusing on like being completely inside of someone else that has already done that part of the job. And so anyways, like we don't want to be involved in that if we don't have to be. And that's another reason, like we're not coming out of the gates trying to build our own chain or anything like that, right? um so yeah, so and so basically, like we want to just be inside of the execution of the VM, and not be outside of that box, and let the experts do the security.
Thank you. And as far as I understand, the first part of the question was around the integration with other chains like Aptos, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, maybe that was the case. So generally, I don't know, Annabelle, if you want to share this or I can do this, we can share a bit more about the VM agnostic vision and the roadmap.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, we're starting with EVM compatibility and implementation first, but the LTS architecture itself is actually VM agnostic, meaning it's not dependent on just EVM semantics. We could expand that to support other VMs as well. So right now, our team is looking at the different VMs in the space, and maybe some of the newer ones that are coming to the space, and just closely monitoring that, and making sure that we can be compatible and support all of those if there is enough demand.
Thank you. And lastly, we have Warren Buffett joining us on this AMA session. So maybe that's going to be the last question. Crypto Buffett, you've raised your hands. Curious if you're still.
Yeah, I'm here. GM, everyone. So my first question is, do you guys have a test net coming up where we can actually test your product, and even if it's just for developers? Secondly, of course, Atlas raised some funds, and I believe down the line there'll be a token. So whenever Atlas has a token, aside from the general governance used for tokens we see in different crypto projects, will the token have any use within the ecosystem?
Yeah, these are great questions. To your first question, We're not a we're not building our own chain, so maybe the concept of DevNet, testnet, mainnet is slightly different for us. But we are hoping to publish our public benchmarking tool in the next few weeks, and that should be the first interface where the developers can um, run the benchmark and see the performance uh, comparison between the different Ethereum-based clients, and how Altius Stack can improve performance. We'll link to a public GitHub repo as well, for some parts of what we've been working on so far. So please stay tuned for that. And the longer term roadmap is fluid, but we're pushing forward on the integration and building out the partnership network. And hopefully we could keep you guys posted along the way. In terms of token, there's no specific plan for now, but definitely is on top of my mind in terms of thinking about business model, and the part that token could come into play. I think as an industry, we're maturing past a point of having a token just for the sake of having a token. Actually, have been speaking to a lot of other builders about this too. But finding the right business model, there are actually a lot of great examples in the Web2 space. A lot of successful SaaS businesses that are able to um, generate a lot of revenue from the partners they have, and I guess learning from that and what that will look like in Web3, on the tokenomics front. I think that's going to actually be a very interesting challenge for us. Historically, we have a lot of really great stacks that people are still using, but maybe we haven't figured out quite yet the right value accrual for many different reasons. But hopefully, with especially in the U.S. with a more crypto positive administration, maybe will be um, a better impetus for us to figure that out in this cycle.
Thank you very much. I think, just as has been mentioned during the in the beginning of this pit stop AMA session, we do thank everyone who joined, asked questions, engaged in the discussion. We are still early, that's the takeaway, but the potential is huge. And as you've heard today, we've already started making the moves, like hiring is open, ambassador program is live, the benchmark is on its way, the pipeline of the partnership is getting bigger. So although we wish we could announce them as soon as possible, some things needs to be done prior to that. And we've all actually had a few amazing meetings in person with some community members and partners in Hong Kong and Denver, with like potential positive outcomes. And we are looking to announcing our next event. So hopefully we'll be able to meet more of you soon. And these pit stop sessions are going to be hosted on a regular basis. So we do encourage everyone, if you have any questions, also obviously not wait to them and just DM us, and we'll be happy to process them one by one to make, maybe this will also inspire us to create a bit some like non-technical content to explain in a plain and simple words what we are about. And obviously I wanted to say a few words of appreciation and like highlighting and giving the clarity about some of our marketing related aspects coming soon. As mentioned, we'll have a separate community sessions and Discord. So if you're not part of it, and this is the aspect you're looking to hear more on, feel free to join and turn on your notifications so we can hear each other soon. Annabel, Anit, maybe last minute closing thoughts from your side, unless, other than less, we are done.
No, just wanted to say thank you for everybody who's joined us tonight or today, depending on where you are, and spend an hour with us. Like I said, our DMs are open. Please reach out if you have any thoughts, feedbacks, or ideas. We're all early in the space and want to make an impact. So, yeah, just thank you again, and please follow along.
Thanks everybody very much for joining.